Hello, Gemini. Great to have you here. My name is Shauna. Today's reading is a general love forecast for November 2025. As always, take the messages that resonate and release anything that doesn't. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay connected with upcoming readings. Let's see what's headed your way, Gemini. So, in terms of your love relationships, I have two definitive storylines here. So take what fits for your situation, okay? And because I feel like I'm speaking to two groups of people, but the underlying energy is that there is for those in relationships, I feel like there's third party situation, there's third party interference in your relationship, as well as some of you honestly potentially stepping out on your relationship partner. And I feel like the energy is sort of like split this way. So I want to talk about, first of all, the person that you're dealing with. Okay, this is the partner. And for those of you in a partnered relationship, I feel like it's a marriage, and I feel at least, this is somebody that's been given a title. So we have here the Empress. And because it's somebody that has a definitive role, I feel like, this can be a wife, a husband, or even a girlfriend or a boyfriend, somebody with status, somebody that has been given a title. And the way that this person is, they're very maternal, they're very nurturing, very, very caring. And they do a lot in order to maintain the household. They also do a lot in order to maintain stability within a dwelling, within a family unit. They are also the bearer of traditions. And they keep the customs alive, they keep the household running, they keep the kids nice and clean and well fed, and they put them to bed. And you're dealing with somebody that embodies the energy of love, nurturing, and abundance. On the negative side of this person, I feel like they can be a little bit controlling. They can be a little bit materialistic or a little bit frivolous, a little bit too much into the way that they look, the way that they are seen by the outsiders, or the way that they are seen by their family. But this is somebody who is very, very strong. They have, generally a very good sense of like a moral compass, and they operate from a space where they like to take care of people, they like to nurture. They can also have a lot of suitors because this deals with beauty, it deals with harmony, beauty, and just appearance. So they could have, a lot of people vying for them. They can be very beautiful personally, or at least in your eyes. And I feel as if, with this Empress energy, and it's right next to the High Priestess. The High Priestess, usually in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, it's like the hidden woman, okay? The mister or the mistress, the person that we are keeping on the side, or the person that is not in the public eye. So for many of you, I just see this opposition here between the Empress, the person that you're seen in the public eye with, and the High Priestess, the person that's kind of like operating and working behind the scenes. And I feel as well that, you're divided between two people. You might also have two people that are in your environment that you're juggling, or you're stepping out on a relationship. What's coming in at the beginning of the deck, the spread here, is the Seven of Swords. And the Seven of Swords is a situation where it's not entirely upfront and honest and seeing the light of day. It's like keeping things from, it's like holding back on communicating whole truths, okay? Hiding things, keeping things under wraps, keeping things hidden. So it's sort of like all these questions are coming at you, and you're kind of dodging or being evasive. Or at least, if this is not coming from your end, somebody is dodgy or being evasive when it comes to, trying to get to the bottom of things, trying to get answers, trying to get some type of clarity in a situation. And when it comes out as this, as a sword energy, I feel like a lot of it is coming from your end, where you're dodging people in the interrogation process, where you're being very evasive. You're being very careful about what you're revealing, and you're also being very careful about what you're holding back, and what you're choosing very wisely, actually, what you're choosing to tell people, what questions you're choosing to ask or answer, and what questions you're choosing to evade. So there's this evasiveness that's coming through, and I feel like in the relationship sector, it usually denotes, third parties. It usually denotes another person that's in the mix. I'm also feeling as well that you could also be dealing with somebody that is like this, where they're keeping some information hidden from you and you're trying to find out. You could be getting to know this person, and you might see this person as the one that you want to, build a relationship with. But there is some sense of like, they're either in your eyes being evasive, or they're kind of mysterious. They're kind of hard to pin down. And because of it, the attraction between you and this other person is very, very, it's felt on a very spiritual, on a very deep rooted level, as well as this sense of bewilderment, this sense of mystery, this sense of wanting to possess another person, wanting to know them inside and out, wanting to ask these questions. But for whatever reason, you're going about it, asking the questions in a very roundabout way. And I feel like the energy flows both ways, okay? For others of you, you could be dealing here with a fire sign. We have here the Knight of Wands. This is somebody that hails from a foreign place, from a foreign land. And I usually associate it with this with Sagittarius, which is your polar opposites. But it could be, another, whatever fire sign, Sagittarius, Aries, or Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising. This is someone who's quite passionate. They don't stop in one place for too long. It's like, the Rolling Stone gathers no moss. They have that mentality. They're very here today, gone tomorrow. They're very exciting. They're very passionate. They go after what they want. And I feel almost like relationships are nice in their lives, but they're kind of like the nomad. They're constantly looking for new pastures. They're constantly looking for new adventures. They're constantly looking for new land to explore, to roam, to conquer. And I also feel as if you're involved with this person, there's a lot of things in their past that you're trying to figure out. But I don't know why. It's just the communication is not very straightforward. It's almost like you both are feeling this really strong attraction towards one another, but there's a sense of like, they're like this, can I trust them? Or they're also wondering, the Gemini person is like this, can I trust them to be truthful and faithful? And then you're wondering, can I trust this person to be truthful and faithful as well? So if you're dealing with a fire sign, Sagittarius, Aries, Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, there's this element of wanting to tame the beast, to possess the person, to have them do your bidding, to want to control them, to try to like contain fire, that wand's energy, to try to contain it in your hands. So you might have very well met your match for this week, Gemini. And this is not just somebody that just randomly comes into the picture. I feel like there are things about them that kind of, it's almost like the attraction I feel is very strong, as well as the temptation to want to control, to possess. They could be very possessive towards you, and you could be likewise very possessive towards them. And I feel like there are clashes when it comes to egos. One person wants to be free. One person wants to, I'll come and go as I please. I can't be contained. And then the other person wants to possess, wants to control, wants to dictate, how the relationship is going to go. And so it's almost like in the process of trying to contain fire in your hands, you might get burned. You want to be a little bit careful if you're dealing with this character. Not that they're not a bad person, but they value their independence so much that it's going to be very difficult for you to tell them, like I see this energy. You sit where I tell you to sit. It's not that severe, not that controlling or manipulative, but I feel like it's this back and forth that you have with another person. And the back and forth, the communication though, is very, very, very wavy. It's not straightforward. And so in order to deal with this type of energy, if you're dealing with somebody that you really like and you want to, build something with them, clear communication, especially if it's a fire sign, Geminis, you need to be very straightforward with your intentions. You need to communicate in a very matter-of-fact, blunt manner, because I feel like all fire signs really appreciate is just, they don't like cryptic messages. They're too impatient to try to figure things out. And they're too impatient to wait for you to state your intentions. So the way to deal with this is with the High Priestess energy coming in the middle of the spread. It's sort of like, let's try not to hold back when it comes to communication. Let's be very clear, and let's not be cryptic when we are dealing with other people. It's a general, good rule of in life. But I feel like for some of you, there are just some things here with power struggles and control that's really interfering with your relationships. Okay? For others of you, it could be this fire sign that is stepping out on the relationship. There's an overall sense of mistrust between you and them. And there's an overall sense of like wanting to, they might have several options, with the partner you're dealing with or the person that you like. They might be somebody that smells really good, that looks really good. I see a lot of flowers here, so I'm tempted to say like smell. Somebody who's very, very tactile. They could very well be, extremely beautiful, handsome. They take care of themselves. They're on a pedestal. They're just kind of like floating up there. So it's like you at least put them on a pedestal and you feel like they're too good to be true. You want to possess. You want to bring them back down to earth. Or likewise, somebody could be doing this to you. But I just feel as if it's an energy of like freedom versus commitment. And it's an expansive energy as well that deals with, it's stirring up some insecurities from both parties. And as a result of it, I feel that it can be very challenging when it stirs up our insecurity and when we feel like we can't communicate properly. We feel very rattled by the other person whenever we're around them, and we can't really gauge their intentions, or we can't really gauge what we're about to do, or they're coming so fast and so they're coming on so fast and so strong that you wonder, do they do this with everybody? Am I just, one of their groupies? Am I just one of the person that's following their lead, or do they actually have a specific place in their heart for me? So I feel like it's stirring up some anxieties as well as some insecurities within you. It's exciting. It's very exciting, but it's also very topsy-turvy. And so what you decide to do, I feel, is that you need to take control of this situation, and you need to have some type of clear and straightforward communication. So rather than, keeping them at bay and potentially driving them away, if you really like them, you want to have some type of a mutual understanding, agreement, consensus, or at least, allow them to kind of just understand where you're coming from, because I feel an energy of like, you can leave, just go, I don't need you. But deep down, you do need them. You want them to come back, but you want to play it off. You want to appear aloof. And so I feel like there are a lot of cues, things that are lost in translations. There are also a lot of miscommunication as well that needs to be worked out. I don't feel like it's getting resolved, but it needs to definitely be worked out in this spread, okay? At least for this week. So if this sounds like the situation you're in, where it's not third party, but there are fears of third parties, then you need to kind of just, open up that channel of communication. If you are dealing with a third party, I feel like your intuition is leading you on the right path towards kind of freeing yourself and not being, it's like, that being wrapped around somebody's fingers and feeling like they've got you pinned down. You can't go, even though you want to go off with somebody else. It feels like that to me. Moving on to other areas of your life here, this is pretty much serving as your spiritual advice. And what I feel overall is you are going to be playing mediator this week, okay? And I see some issues when it comes overall here to dealing with people, giving advice to people, being kind of like the onlooker in a conflictual situation. So for many of you, you might be, you might work as a therapist. You might play therapist for family members. You might play therapist for friends. You might be as well playing therapist for coworkers who are not getting along, who are competing with one another, who are working at cross purposes with one another, who are not communicating very well. And so you're going to be kind of like the person that they all go to vent their emotions, to vent everything that they're feeling. So whatever, frustrations other people are dealing with, they're going to come to you, and you're going to be kind of like that shoulder for them to cry on here with this Queen of Cups. And I also feel, this is family, this is friends coming in, as well as people in the workplace, not so much coworkers, maybe even people that you're managing, supervising, teaching. There's a big element here about training, learning a new craft, learning a new skill. Everybody's on board, working in the same direction, building something of lasting value. And I feel like, it's a process where we wanted a specific way, but then we understand that the skill set of the people that are tasked with completing this process, they might not be capable, they might not be competent. So we kind of have to lower our expectations and kind of like go to their level to teach them where they're at. So I see you as being sought after for advice, for your opinion, for your skills and expertise. And I also see you giving logical, tangible advice on the practical front, but also giving, emotional advice as well in other areas. There could also be conflict between you and a water sign, okay? So Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, regarding, this is a card about competition here. So it could be, you could be competing with each other. If it's somebody who's also in very high demand. They might do things differently than you because, you're an air sign, they're a water sign. They're not going to move as fast as you'd hope. So if you're waiting on them, there's going to be that element of frustration. The career front is looking really, really good here with the sun. The sun indicates to me, the spotlight. It's sort of like the areas where you shine, or the areas where you're very, very visible. Everybody sees everything that you're doing. But it's next to the Three of Pentacles, which denotes that people are soliciting you. They're trying to find you. They're coming to you in droves to try to get your expertise, get your ideas, get your opinions. So I feel like giving off advice, and then the other person stalls and they're trying to, work one step at a time. So when I mention like the people in your midst, they're tasked with doing something, but their skill level or their expertise or their capabilities are not on par with what you had planned for them. So you have to lower your expectations a little bit. This is sort of like somebody who doesn't really know how to do things um, repetitively. So it could be, they're trying to remember the process. So they do like 5 things and then they stop and ask for further clarification or further advice